Throwing long downfield for Tyreek Hill. Got it at the 20-yard line. Right side they throw. Back in the end zone. Touchdown! Kansas City! Hill motion with it. Good fake to him. Throw right side. Caught by Williams in the right corner. Touchdown! Kansas City! Chase by 4. Garoppolo in the pocket. He's being hit. He's being wrapped up. Frank the shot.
Now, here's News 5's William Jackson.
It is indeed News 5's William Jackson. And I don't know that I'm exactly in the same feels as I was during that intro, during Super Bowl 54, but it's a Sunday in October, and the Chiefs have gotten a win. So, guys, it's already a pretty good day, right? KCTV5's William Jackson. Of course, Noah Gronniger. I'm Clint Switzer. Thanks for joining us here on the Redzone Report. William, hey, you know what? It is, they always say winning is a cure-all, right? So get to 2 today by hook or by crook. I mean, they were able to kind of pull away late, which is good to see. But and I don't know if anybody ever has any wagering interests on NFL games, but they did cover the spread for the first time since November of 2020. So here we are, William. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How you guys doing, man? It's great to be on with you, and it's great to be on. I was starting to think it was a jinx going on here with these guys, right? Coming on here. Like, man, I haven't been in Kansas City in years, and we come back and they're losing, right? But with that said, it was great to see a win. Mahomes and the offense looked like their old selves. They had a good balance with the run in the pass. But again, something I know we'll talk about the defense, and that is still a concern. But again, you take the win and you bask in the glory of the victory for a while, then you'll get back to the other stuff. But to go on the road to Philly to get a victory has to feel good for Kansas City Chiefs players and especially the fans.
Yeah, and that's the second week in a row that we've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 100 or over 100 yards rushing. So maybe they're getting some things working. It also helps that they're not playing as good of run defenses in the Chargers. So here we're going to see what Patrick Mahomes can do moving forward. We've seen the interceptions. We want to kind of get away from that. It looks like he's trying to do too much. He's pressing out there. So what have you seen in Patrick Mahomes, especially with the interception today? And then just the whole offensive line, it looks like they're kind of solidifying things in the run game, in the pass game. We did see 1 sack for 7 yards. Javon Hargrave is really good. He got through there one time. But for the most part, it looks like this offensive line, Clint's favorite cliche, is gelling and coming together. And then Patrick Mahomes, he just needs to clean it up and stop pressing so much.
Oh, definitely. And they were starting to gel. Running the ball, that can help do that. But he also, with their protection on the pass, the guys seem to be coming together. And that's what you want to see. So you run the ball to build that chemistry, that camaraderie even more. I think early on, Pat was pressing a little bit. Second half, it seems like they went back to being their old selves. And they calmed down and they did what they've done to be successful. And what they did, especially in the fourth quarter, if you notice, they took time off the clock. They ran the ball a lot. In that whole scenario, even Patrick Mahomes was able to run for a first down and keep it going. So definitely running the ball, and I think they were conscious of it. And I think what they've been able to do is wake up a little bit, because before it was like, we're the Chiefs, we can just do what we want to do, we'll get out of here with the win. Well, after 3 games in the season, you're 1-2, you're last place in the West, somewhere you haven't been in quite a long time, and it makes you start looking in the mirror and say, okay, what can we do? Let's get back to who we are. And although they didn't do it initially, by the end of the game, they were doing what they can do offensively. Defense, again, that's another story.
Noah, I want to go to you on this, because to me, the Chiefs defense, who has been much maligned, of course, when it comes to, the running game, ranked last in the league through 3 weeks, defensive rushing stats. When you look at what Jalen Hurts was able to do today, 32 of 48, 385 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was really able to have success outside the numbers. It looked like the Chiefs corners were playing off a little bit. That had to be a scheme situation here, where the Chiefs so entranced with trying to stop this running game. The Eagles really hadn't been able to run the ball. Jalen Hurts is the team's leading rusher. Mm-hmm. So what were the Chiefs trying to do that you were seeing that they were able to stop this Eagles running, attack that really doesn't even exist? And then through the air, they were able to have success. Jalen Hurts had been wildly inaccurate through the first 3 games. Here he is with a high completion percentage, a lot of yards, and really racked it up through the air today, man. That's got to be, is it concerning if you're looking at the corners, or it's like you're looking at a guy like Charvarius Ward, not available today, Rashad Fenton, not available today? What did you see in the defense today?
Yeah, it just looked like the Eagles tried to put everybody out in space, and I just don't think the Chiefs were expecting that with how porous they've been against the run, and with both Eagles tackles out. I thought that they were thinking that they could just beat those tackles, crash down, and really condense things, that the Eagles were going to just try and run the football with Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders. Eagles came out throwing the ball, misdirection. That put the Chiefs defenders in space. You saw Alex Okafor, Ben Neiman, Sorensen out there, the usual suspects, kind of lost in space, not knowing where they're supposed to be or how to get there, or not athletic enough to get there. And then with Charvarius Ward out, that hurts. He's good in the run game as well, not just at playing a receiver as a cornerback. He comes down, he sheds the receivers good, comes down in the run game, and he's a big help there. So without him, that was a struggle. You saw DeAndre Baker out there, Mike Hughes. They were struggling in the pass game. I think everyone getting shifted up a slot with Charvarius Ward out. They weren't ready for that role, especially DeAndre Baker. So he's okay, but he's not great. I want to see Juan Thornhill back in there. I'm not sure if we're going to get to see it. Willie Gay's going to help out in the tackling and the being able to take running backs and tight ends in space. Because he's an athletic, speedy linebacker. So when he is able to come back, I think that's going to help. Hopefully he's back next week, because we have a big challenge in the Buffalo Bills coming here to Kansas City.
Yeah, indeed. That's very well said. I think that, as you look back to this, and the Eagles are a team that were kind of an enigma to me. They were 1-2 through the first couple of games. They had the win against Atlanta in week 1, but the next couple of games really showed me that the Eagles just aren't ready to compete, even in the NFC East, a weak NFC East. We see what the Cowboys are doing. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, the next assignment's the Buffalo Bills, guys. William, we've seen what they've been able to do. They've outscored their opponent something like 168-23 through the last 3 games. Josh Allen is really riding a wave of confidence, but they're coming to Arrowhead for this. How important is next week for the Chiefs when you've dropped a couple of games like you did to the Ravens, to the Chargers? Now you got another top-notch AFC team coming in. This is a big one for Kansas City next week, and a chance to really turn the tide to what we've seen the last couple of weeks.
I think it will give everybody a chance to exhale if they can get the win against Buffalo, because you're talking about a top-tier team, a team that you will see during the playoffs. You'll run into them either directly or indirectly, and they'll be there. And what it will do, it'll give us a chance to gauge and see where Kansas City is. We're thinking they're getting a little better, but right now, as we approach this game, I'm looking at it as an old-fashioned shootout, because from what they're doing defensively, talking about the Chiefs, I don't think they'll be able to stop the Bills like that. And I think Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense, they're starting to gel with the running game, with the linemen getting in sync and all that. So I think this might turn into something we saw a few weeks ago with Lamar Jackson, who gets the ball last, right? That same kind of scenario. But this will go a long way in the mindset of the Chiefs and the fans and, any issues that they have. But one thing we know for sure, over the next week at practice, they'll have to hone their skills when it comes to defense, and they'll have to figure some stuff out, because I tell you what, you go in against Buffalo and they will light you up, and you don't want to get into a game, although Kansas City is the one team who can do it if you need to, where you get into a shootout and you feel confident that you can come out on top. But you would like to be able to stop the opponent, because the Bills are one of those teams you can't sneeze at, or if you blink your eye, they'll be right on top of you, and that could spell their demise, talking about Kansas City. And we don't want to see that. We want to see them keep trending in the direction they're headed now, and I think they have a good chance to do that. But again, not concerned about offense as much after what I saw today. Defensively, yes.
Well, Clint, I know how much of a fan you are of McCole Hardman, Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson, Blake Bell, some of these second-tier offensive weapons, but I know that you're a big fan of them. We have a question from Todd L. here that comes from our YouTube. Why did it seem like none of the offensive weapons could get open today? We should have scored 60-plus points, in my opinion. Clint, we're going to go to you for your thoughts on this.
Well, it's hard to ever say that an NFL team should score 60-plus points, regardless of what's going on. I think that you've seen clearly that defenses are trying to bracket Tyreek Hill, and it's not working. Tyreek Hill is able to get behind the Eagles secondary on multiple occasions here. I mean, look at this. Look at what he had: 11 catches, 186 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was clear that that the Chiefs in practice this week wanted to get the ball back in Tyreek Hill's hands, because these other weapons, Noah, we do not trust. Whether they're not getting open, whether it's route running, whether it's scheme, whether it's their own physical abilities, Pringle, Hardman, and certainly Demarcus Robinson are not players that can be counted on consistently. Week to week, you might have someone step up and make plays and help move the ball, but there's not a consistent number 2 receiver there. And that's why we talked on our pregame with Rich Baldinger, and you raised the question, Josh Gordon coming in here. He might be available next week against the Bills. He comes in as that big physical receiver that the Chiefs are severely lacking. So, William, I'm going to throw it to you. Josh Gordon, is he someone that you believe that can come in here and make a difference for this team, kind of considering the fact that the question that came from our YouTube here, these other receivers aren't really cutting it right now? Can Josh Gordon come in and make an immediate impact? Oh,
no question. That's why they signed him to the roster and everybody's so excited about getting it. If you look at this guy, Josh Gordon, he led the league in receiving a few years back, right? If he can just keep the tunnel vision off the field and stay focused on football, he's still one of your top-tier receivers. And what it does for Tyreek Hill, it clears him up even more. Kelsey, it just opens it up. And again, defenses have found a way to blanket, whether it's Kelsey, Tyreek, they try to get on him a little more. But if you can put Gordon in the mix, you have 3 legitimate talents that you have to be conscious of at all times. So I think he will make a huge difference. A lot of people, Sammy Watkins is out there. I think they missed him a little more than they anticipated, right? So I think Josh Gordon can be a guy who can come in and fill the void. And again, if healthy, if his head's right, he's one of the best receivers in the game. And I think I heard a comment earlier today, Patrick Mahomes saw him and didn't realize he was that big. So he can be physical, he can go deep for you. So he gives them that extra offensive power that they may need, especially coming up next week, especially until you get this defense on the right course, because until then you'll be in some shootouts, and he's a good guy to have on your side if in fact it comes down to those situations. So yeah, I think it's a very positive move bringing him in. Let's hope he keeps that tunnel vision, and if he can stay focused, then that will make the Chiefs even more dangerous than they've been thus far, and it'll look like the Chiefs feared like they were in past years.
Yeah, we have another question coming in here for you, William. If you were
no
the
pressure
head coach,
here, no pressure, William.
If you were the head coach, what changes do you make before next week? And congratulations on your 100th win today.
Yeah, big time. Look, I'll take that. Just give me that signing bonus or the bonus. Right? You know what? And I think we'll go back to this. Offensively, I think we're in pretty good shape, because again, we talked about to establish the run. Edwards-Helaire, he was able to run the ball again effectively for another week. His confidence is building. Patrick Mahomes seemed to calm down a little more in the second half, although he's a superstar by all rights, so that's not a problem. Bringing Josh Gordon in is good. So that side of the ball I'm feeling good about. We'll just continually execute what we've been doing thus far and just build on that and build on what we did today. Again, defensively, you're going to have to figure out a way to bring more pressure. You're going to have to find a way to get to the quarterback. And that is the issue. And I know you guys have talked about it. What I would do is spend the majority of the week on defense, trying to devise some schemes and some things that we can slow Buffalo down with. Because what we need to do is start forcing turnovers. If we can get more turnovers, I think that'll be instrumental. If you can do it and you give Patrick Mahomes in this offense the ball back in the shock of a turnover, you strike quickly, then that can take Buffalo and teams going forward out of the game mentally. So I think the biggest thing I would do offensively, I wouldn't do a whole lot. The tweaking would be on the defensive side of the ball. And my whole thing is just we have to find a way to stop them. Again, as you guys talked about, Jalen Hurts today throws for nearly 400 yards, look like a world beater. They'll make him an all-pro with today's performance against this team. And they have some talent on defense. I know Clark's still not there, but they still have enough talent to make it work. I just think they have to hone in, think of a way, find a way to create some turnovers and give it back to the offense and ride the offensive wave until you can really, really feel good about what you're doing defensively. But I'd say in the short term, try to find a way to punch it out, the peanut punch. Chicago Bears former defensive back, he was known for it. I think they need to practice that a little bit in practice this week. And if they can execute it, then I think they'll be okay. So defensively is where all of my attention will be this week.
Well, guys, I want to get into that just a little bit more, and I want to ask you both this question. I want to start with you, William, because when it comes to defense, to me, it seems like not only is this defense struggling right now, it's also really unlucky. You've got a play at the goal line where I think it's Gainwell fumbling at the goal line.
Oh, yeah.
They cover it.
Yeah.
But no one knows that it's a fumble that's not challenged. The Chiefs needed to force a turnover there. They've got the ball at the goal line, and yet they don't maintain possession. The Eagles score a couple plays later. You've got the play before halftime where Chris Jones is trying to come up with a fumble, and it's bouncing everywhere. If you can fall on it, you can get 3 points there. It seems to me like the defense is such a mental thing, and you saw so many great defenses when you were here covering the team in the 90s, and there was a mentality there. How much of this do you think is a mentality? And when that mentality occurs and things are going wrong and nobody seems to be really playing physically, things aren't going your way. The turnovers aren't even falling into your hands. You're not gaining possession on interceptions that you're actually making. How important is that? And do you think that's playing a role into why this defense is struggling right now? Starting with you, William.
Oh yeah, it definitely takes its toll because when you look at all these guys get a paycheck every week in the National Football League, right? So to even be here, you have to have a certain degree of talent. Mentally, that's where the game is played between, your ears. And I think it's huge today. And you allude to two great opportunities. The one, if they would have had the presence of mind to challenge it, right? Because it was a fumble and the Eagles got up to the ball so quickly. And then once you see it on the review, on the replay, it would have taken 4 seconds to figure out, okay, this thing was out. Let's turn it over and go in the other direction. And then we see it all the time with defensive linemen. They see that 15 seconds of glory in front of them, try to pick up the ball and run with it, and they fumble the ball and can't get on it. And in this case, towards the end of the half, you see the Eagles pounce on that again. So, yeah, some opportunities, things don't fall your way, but it has a way of balancing itself out if you can stay with the course and stay strong mentally to know that we have the ability and we can do it. But mentally, it's just like anything else with confidence, right? Even before basketball players play games, they warm up first, right? And you see it in all facets of sports. So what happens between your ears is vitally important. And right now, when the ball isn't bouncing your way literally, then you really have to kind of lock in on that and hope that it turns around. But it can. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. If they can try to concentrate on stripping the ball, creating some turnovers, things of that nature, I think if they can do that against Buffalo, especially a team like Buffalo, an explosive quality team, then I think things will turn around and you will see them start to gel. Because with this offense, you don't need a whole lot. If you get Patrick Mahomes going back to his old self without any turnovers, then all you need is a little help from your defense, and they'll ride and take you the rest of the way. So I think mentally it's huge, and they're going to have to do something, try to get the turnovers. But again, it all starts up in your head because physically all these guys are good.
Yeah, and you're going to need Chris Jones on the inside, but I just don't know. They don't have another player to play at defensive end. It's like they're wasting this great player that they have. We see this question right here. Is the Chris Jones experiment actually working? Seems like he's getting less pressure than he used to. Should we consider moving him back into tackle and finding another big body run stopper to trade for in the middle of the D-line? We definitely need to move Chris Jones inside. Mike Pennell, who is here, is on the Falcons practice squad. He can easily be signed away and added him to the active roster here in Kansas City. I think that's something we really need to look at and do. He's a big run stopper. When he came here, our run defense turned around and solidified, and we let him go for whatever reason. We thought Jaron Reed from Seattle could be the answer. So far, he hasn't been. They may need to look at a move like that, adding Mike Pennell, and they need to move Chris Jones inside and find a pass rusher for the edge because they're just not getting it done. The person that gets the most pressure on this team is a corner, L'Jarius Sneed, when he's worked into the blitz packages. So that's a problem.
Noah, what does your heart tell you right now about this team? When you look at the other teams in the division play, we know the Raiders are 3-0. They're going to play the Chargers on Monday Night Football. The Broncos are going to play the Ravens. They're 3-0 as well. But what you look around and, the Browns, had to kind of pull away late from the Vikings today. We saw the Bills win 40-0. We know it's a crowded AFC. What is your heart right now? And, we're 4 games in. That used to be a quarter of the season back, in 2020 in the olden days. It's an extra game now, so it's not quite a quarter yet. What does your heart tell you about this team? Do you look at it and say that, yes, we can right some of these wrongs, that this is still the defending division champs, that this could still be 6 straight division championships, and that you can write off into the sunset as a 2 or 3 or who knows, even a 1 seed in the AFC playoffs? Or does this look like this could be a transition year where you got to play the Bills coming up, you got the Titans coming up, the Cowboys offense is absolutely tremendous right now, and you see a lot of these games are going to go down to the wire? What does your heart tell you about this team right now?
Yeah, I mean, we saw some positive things today. It looked like the red zone defense got a little better. How much of that was the Eagles and their injuries and just not really being consistent on the offensive side of the football, and how much of that was the defense actually getting better? That's going to remain to be seen. I could answer this question easier after next week, after I see what happens against Buffalo, but you're asking it me today. So
I'll ask again. I'm writing it down.
Okay. If I have to answer it today, I'd say the Chiefs are looking at this thing going down to the wire. We're not used to that here. We're used to winning the AFC West week 10, week 11, week 12, somewhere in there. This thing's going to go down to the wire at the very end, week 18, because the Chargers have gotten better. The Raiders have gotten better. I think the Broncos are going to be exposed today. We'll see that as that game's underway right now against the Baltimore Ravens. But yeah, I don't trust this defense. I don't think they are fixed. If I'm answering that question about whether it was the Eagles or the Chiefs defense getting better, I think it was the Eagles' deficiencies on the offensive side of the football that kind of held them back and held them themselves to those field goals that they got today. And so I look at this defense not really going to be fixed. I don't think the Chiefs are going to swallow their pride or have the answer at defensive end to move Chris Jones back to the inside. And I don't see any other answers coming on the defensive side of the ball. So Steve Spagnuolo is going to have to fix something.
Well, and could that have been, William, in a situation where there was a few roster moves that were made that were kind of befuddling? What we talked about, moving Chris Jones to defensive end. So far, to my naked eye, it's not working. Now, in the offseason, you had the opportunity to sign a Justin Houston, a Melvin Ingram. And, you might look at those guys and say they're 32 years old. They can't give you much, but they can, especially on this defense that's struggling up front. When Tershawn Wharton, a guy from Missouri S&T, has really been kind of the standout player at defensive end right now. What Frank Clark's gone. You already had the Frank Clark situation brewing. Was it a mistake on the Chiefs' part to not address this, to think that you could, muddy this up by moving Chris Jones and not bringing anyone else in? There's just seems to be that this was kind of a roster situation that Brett Veach could have at least plugged someone else in and got some bodies in there. And that just wasn't the case. I mean, is that kind of on him at this point?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it looked good with the press clippings to say, okay, we'll move Chris Jones out and he can be our savior there. Right. But I go back to the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. If he's been effective there, you leave it. And you have to address, like, bringing some other folks in who can do it. Now, you say these other guys are older. They're older, but they're proven veterans, and they know how to handle situations. And you can never underestimate the savviness of a veterans player. And when they say veterans and old veteran habits and moves, and that's also infectious in the locker room with the young guys, too. You have some guys who can show them, well, look here, I see what you're doing here, but if you make this slight adjustment, you can do this, that, and the other. And then they go out there and they see the veterans do it. I think that's huge. So you always have to have veteran presence. And I think when you have some guys who have proven themselves over the years and you have an opportunity to bring them in, don't muddy the waters. Try to make the waters as clear as possible that we want to be successful and we're going to bring guys in who can help us achieve that. And what you're seeing right now with the experiments that aren't working, then that's going to move to the front of the line in terms of what they need to do and what they have to address. And as Noah said, this defense right now, things aren't looking good at all, and it will be hard to fix. So again, Josh Gordon, bringing him in, we need all the offensive firepower that we can muster at this point. Defensively, you're going to have to think about making some moves and doing something. But first and foremost, Chris Jones, I'll put him back on the inside. And again, like we say, develop some other guys on the outside. But that's where he's been a menace to the National Football League Society. So you put him back where he does his work and let him go from there.
Yeah, because if you bring in a Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, they could be a rotational player while you try this Chris Jones experiment. And when you see this ain't working, you move Chris to the inside and those guys become a starter. And so I don't know why you don't have that insurance policy on the roster in case this experiment doesn't work. It's like, no, this is foolproof. It's definitely going to work 100%, because if it doesn't, we don't have an answer, and we're okay with that because we know it's going to work. Well, it's not working. Now you don't have an answer. So the Chiefs are in trouble.
Right. No doubt.
That was dire. No,
I'm sorry. a little too dark for a winning postgame show.
You said that so deadpan, like, oh, it's not working and it's not getting better and there's no answer. So, all right.
Yeah.
But
Keep in mind, we did beat the Eagles today. So.
Oh yeah, Chiefs will still do well, but as we pick this thing apart, right?
Right.
The glaring and obvious fact is the defense has to get so much better when you look at the schedule. And if you just look at, like you guys talked about seconds ago, in the AFC West and how that has improved and the teams you'll be facing. And again, Denver, I don't think they're as good as they say they are. But when you talk about those other two, the Chargers and Raiders, those are two teams to be reckoned with. So you're going to have to bring your big boy hat and get ready to play. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, and they're going to have to fix that.
I agree with you. I think that there's something, though, and we've seen this with a few Chiefs teams in history that started. We saw in 2003, the team started 9-0. In 2013, the Chiefs started 9-0. And to me, there is something to momentum when you have some lucky breaks, like the Raiders have gotten, like the Chargers have gotten to get to where they are, to 2-1, for the Raiders to be 3-0, for the Broncos to be 3-0, playing the Jaguars, Giants, and Jets the first 3 weeks. There is something, though, to building momentum. When you get that out of the gate, and maybe all of a sudden you do, like right now the Broncos are tied with the Ravens heading into the second quarter. It's 0-0. So maybe there is something to the fact of being able to build that momentum. And now all of a sudden you play the Chiefs here in a few weeks if you're the Raiders, and well, the Chiefs are, they're 3-3 or 4-3 or whatever they're going to be at the time. The era of invincibility to me is gone. I think these teams all think they could beat the Chiefs, and they're all going to think that this is their chance to do it because of the defense, because of the things we've mentioned, because of the fact they've all gotten better. Well, the Chiefs have kind of stood pat. And I don't say that to diminish what the Chiefs have done, because where the Chiefs were, there was nowhere to go but down. And for the other teams, there was nowhere to go but up. So you were going to meet at some point, and maybe that time is now.
And you know what you just said too, and it's a question that you brought up earlier about, having confidence and being mentally fit. And I just call it the Buster Douglas syndrome, right?
Ooh.
Or Mike Tyson.
I like that.
Buster Douglas, a lot of guys lost the bout before they entered the ring, right? I'm fighting Mike Tyson, it's over.
Yep.
Once Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson, people felt like they could beat him. And I'll use that scenario in this particular instance when we refer to the Chiefs, right?
I like
now
that.
They've been knocked off the pedestal to a degree, so other teams feel like we can get them now, where over the past couple of years they seem unbeatable. And even last year's Super Bowl, we put that on the offensive line and lack thereof with injuries and bad situations, but they were the same Chiefs. But now, as the season has started and they've turned it over a couple of times, I call it the Buster Douglas syndrome, and that's what they're facing. So now what you have to do is go out there and prove yourself all over again.
Yeah, or the Chiefs just played the Eagles in Philadelphia. Rocky Balboa's home. The big rush and Ivan Drago. He's cut. He's not.
There you go. Nice analogy. Right. Great analogy. Right.
Well, I don't know. I'm looking for a boxing analogy of my own to throw in. I don't know. Can we get Roberto? Can we get Roberto Duran or Thomas Hitman Hearns or Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard involved in this? Because I'm such a fan of the middleweight division of the 80s. That's a whole nother show for another.
Maybe the Chiefs are pulling a Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, guys, the Chiefs win today, 42-30. I want to kind of circle back to that because we've gone down some dark paths here, and we got to remember this, guys. In the future, the Chiefs wins. We take them for granted, and coming out of it, especially going on the road to what I believe is going to be an improving Eagles team. I don't think they're going to be ready in 2021, But in 2022, I think that a team like that, especially with that division, I think this Eagles team with Jalen Hurts might be a team later down the road. But we take these wins for granted, and we don't want to do that. This was a 42-30 win, a game that the Chiefs covered the spread in the first time since November of 2020. So before we guys let you go, we may have a special guest popping in with us. We might have. Do we have Joe Valerio? That's my
Touchdown,
question.
Joe Valerio.
There he is.
The answer is no, we do not.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Teaser. It was a good idea on paper.
Wisdom, yeah.
But guys,
interesting stories, yeah.
Oh, it was, guys. Well, you know what? It's been such a pleasure having you here on Redzone Report. We hope you guys were able to enjoy the day, enjoy the game. We know a lot of Chiefs fans were there. Go have yourself a Philly cheesesteak and celebrate the win. If you're in Kansas City, you got some beautiful weather outside, so go finish, mulching or whatever you societal norm people do. William, I don't know. Noah and I aren't real adults, so we'll probably just hang out and watch more football. That's just the truth, man.
Oh, that's on my schedule for the rest of the day too. Watch football and sit back and relax and that's it, right?
I got some evergreens to play over here. I don't know about you guys. Let me know how the rest of those games go. But
oh man, I knew it. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of us here on the Redzone Report, powered by Starcade Media. As always, hit us up on our Facebook page, Twitter, or Instagram, Starcade Media. And William Jackson, he's always up there. If you want to seek him out on social media, he'd be glad to interact. We take all the flack for some of this stuff. William would be glad to answer any of your questions as well.
I love it, Clint.
We love doing it with you, William. You are the best, my friend.
Any
Thank you guys so much.
Please see William Jackson.
Right, yeah, there you go. Man, it's great, man. Great being with you guys. And I tell you what, great Chiefs victory. I love when the guys can put it together. And again, as you guys talked about at the beginning of the show, we'll take a win any way we can get it. We know what we need to address, what this squad needs to address. But for right now, the rest of the evening, savor in the win and just over the next couple of days, then get back on it.
Well, we savor these shows with
had
you.
A fan here that said, "Holy cow, it's Sam Jackson." You thought Sam Jackson was joining us? No, that is William Jackson. We're much happier to have William Jackson here.
Okay.
Right.
Sam L. Jackson.
I have a lot of questions about that. The person was unidentified. It just said Facebook user. So someone.
Maybe it was Sam.
I love Samuel L. Jackson, but I think I'm an even bigger fan of William. So,
absolutely.
My guys, I appreciate it.
I don't know how you confuse the two, but you know what?
Right.
We're good with it. We'll just roll with it.
There you go.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us at Redzone Report. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, we'll see you, man. All right.